Hey, friends, and welcome back to Pastor's Wives Tell All. Today, we're chatting with Amy Gordon, a pastor's wife, mom, ministry leader, and teacher from Orangeville, Ontario. Amy and her husband, Andrew, have served in ministry together for over 30 years. Andrew is the lead pastor at Compass Community Church, and throughout their journey, they've walked through health crises and career transitions that have deeply shaped their marriage, family, ministry, and faith. Amy and Andrew are parents to 4 adult sons and 1 daughter-in-law. In this episode, Amy shares about her husband's near-death experience, 2 shocking diagnoses, and how God has faithfully carried them through it all. They continue to serve in church ministry and hold deep hope for pastors, ministry families, and anyone walking through chronic illness or complex trauma. So let's get into this powerful and hope-filled conversation.
I'm Jessica.
I'm Jenna.
And I'm Stephanie.
And you are listening to Pastor's Wives Tell All,
a podcast by pastors' wives for church leaders and anyone desiring to take a peek inside our glass house.
We are breaking down walls and crushing pastors' wives stereotypes within the church.
We want pastors' wives and other ministry leaders to know that they are not alone in this. Plus, this is basically therapy for the 3 of us with a whole lot of dance parties. Hey, Amy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I've been excited about this for weeks now. So Thanks so much for having me.
Well, we are so glad to have you on the show today. But before we start asking you a bunch of questions, share a little bit about who you are, a little bit about your family, ministry, all the things.
And where you're located.
Oh, yes.
Because that's
super
super fun.
Right. Because according to my accent, you're probably all going to tell that I'm from Canada. So I am living currently in a town of Orangeville, which is about an hour north of Toronto. So that would be our kind of closest major city, would be Toronto. But we've lived here for almost 12 years now. And prior to that, we also lived closer to Toronto, so we didn't move very far. But my husband and I have been married for about 29 and a half years. Ooh. And we have 4 adult sons. So our oldest one is Jonathan, and he just got married this past summer. So that was fun.
Congratulations.
Yeah. And now we have a daughter.
Yay!
It's also great. Yeah. So her name is Melissa, and they live about an hour and a half away from us. And my son, Jonathan, is currently a youth pastor at a church in one of the towns over there. So he's there. And then Matthew is our second, and he just graduated from Teachers College. So he got a teaching job, teaching grade 5 at a local school. And then Eric is our third born, and he's also recently engaged. So we have another wedding coming up next year.
Oh my gosh.
But he's doing his master's at University of Toronto in Bible and theology with a ministry focus. So he will be pursuing that as well. And then Mitch is our youngest, and he is in his first year of university at a local Christian university here in Toronto as well. So, and I'm a teacher by trade, I guess, by whatever. And so I currently work as a special education consultant for our school board, our local public school board.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, our ministry, we are at Compass Community Church in Orangeville. It's a multi-site church. And so Orangeville is our main campus. And then we have 2 other sites in neighboring smaller towns. So yeah, that's where we are. And this is where we've been for the last 12 years or so.
Amy, you are empty nesters. How do you feel about that? Whoa.
Well, yes, that is true. We are empty nesters for the first time, but they really still come and go. Like they're never actually gone.
That's good.
So, which is great. So we have enjoyed some really sweet time for sure when we do have the kind of extended time, but often on the weekends, someone's home or, someone's home for reading week at school or, there's always they're always coming and going, but I'm actually really glad that they feel they can come home.
I know.
Yeah,
I love that.
And they want to come home. That's even better.
I know. That's great.
I want my kids to want to come home. I'm always like, you still love me, right?
Right? I know.
I'm still your favorite, right?
I know. You cook all the favorite things. And
yes,
that's
right. So
just coerce them back to the house.
That's right.
Oh my gosh. I do remember that my granny had this closet with candy, like all of our favorite candies. So of course we love going there. So I think
course.
I should have
Yes.
a candy closet.
A candy closet.
A candy closet.
You could call it a cavity closet.
We're not
That
going to
too.
call it that. Nope.
Be
Candy-
positive. We're going to be positive,
Candy
Jessica.
and toothbrushes. Do you have cavities?
Not currently.
But from that closet, I bet you do.
I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, back to what we're
Amy.
supposed to be talking about. Okay. So, what we found really cool about you and your story and your husband is that you have been in ministry for 30 years and you haven't been in a whole lot of places. You've only been in 2 churches. And it's interesting because my husband maybe sounds a little bit similar to the way like y'all think as
Okay.
well. Like if he goes somewhere, he's determined he's staying there.
Yeah.
And you guys have this motto, and you said it was staying long and going deep. And that is what matters as you serve in the church.
Yeah.
So what has that looked like for you and your family? Can we talk about that and that motto?
Yeah, for sure. It probably, to be honest, wasn't something we set out to do. It wasn't something that we said, oh, every church we go to, we're just going to stay long. Because really, we're just staying as long as God wants us there, right?
Yeah.
So being responsive to him and to the Holy Spirit that way. So I grew up a pastor's kid, which I know I also had mentioned, but my dad moved around a lot. Like I grew up moving around a lot. So kind of your more typical, I guess, scenario. But so when Andrew and I started at our first church, it was we ended up participating in the church plant of a new site for a multi-site congregation. So that actually, you do go deep really fast, right? When you're church planting with people like that. So, and you're doing all the things and you're housing the nursery and the kids ministry in your garage and you're like, putting up chairs every Sunday and, setting everything up and tearing everything down. And it just builds a different sort of community that way. And so, so we loved being there. That was just kind of where we thought we would be for all time. Like we could have very easily just really stayed there. So we stayed there about 18 years and ended up leaving because my husband had been sick for a little bit and had been off. And then when he came back, we decided, well, it was very evident that the church had changed and it had, there was new leadership that had come while he was off. So the associate pastor had become the lead pastor. And so, it was still good, but, like in his words, he said, I could have just stayed and kind of been the grandpa of the building and of the congregation, but we knew that God had more for us. So we started kind of looking at that point. So that was 18 years. And then God brought us to our current ministry where we have been for, almost 12 now. So staying long and going deep has really been, it hasn't been something we intentionally set out to do, but it has been what we have ended up doing.
I think it's a great motto. Okay, so you grew up a pastor's kid, like you just said.
Yep.
And now you're a pastor's wife.
Yep.
And you have seen a lot of ministry and you have seen a lot of good and probably a lot of bad throughout your whole life. So how has your perspective on ministry changed as a little girl and now to an adult being a pastor's wife?
Well, I think, just from being a child, you perceive things to be one way. And then as an adult, you understand that they maybe weren't that way.
Right.
We had I grew up in a great family. My family was really, really close. I have 2 brothers. And my parents were fantastic. I was always, as a kid, really proud of my dad. I was really proud to be a pastor's kid. And to the point where being a pastor's wife was actually something I wanted to be. Like, I don't even
love
know
that
thing, right? Like it was,
it
was, I guess something I never shied away from, so it wasn't necessarily that I would, I'm only going to date people who are going to be pastors, it wasn't anything like that, but because it was a positive thing for me and I really understood the calling piece of it, I think, as I got older. And so I knew that was something that I could do and that God could call me to. And I was okay with that. In fact, I was more than okay with that. So, but then as you become a parent in that kind of role, you realize that, there are things that, you might need to protect your kids from. And they're kind of open your eyes to the things that I know that my parents probably protected us from. Right. So, but like, it's also been, 30 years, 50 years or plus that, I've been in ministry life kind of thing.
How old are you? I mean, look at her skin.
Because you look
I
like
know.
real young.
I know. I was trying to do some math, and I don't
know.
like to math, but I was just
I
like,
don't like to
might not
math
wanna
either.
say.
I'm with you on
well,
that.
you don't have to say your age, but when you said that number, I was like, whoa, girl.
Yeah.
Everybody
No,
needs
no,
her
no.
skin routine.
I know full grown children.
yeah.
Seriously, though, you are blessed and
Yes,
highly favored.
yes, you are beautiful.
Thank you. And I really have my mom to thank for that because she too never looked her age ever. So I am
job,
bumping
Mom.
55, but
Okay.
and I'm not shy. I'm not embarrassed of that at all.
Good.
So that's totally fine. But
55?
Yes.
yeah, so I am
Don't
bumping
you look 10 years
55.
younger?
100%. I'm like, I'm going to be 40 next month. And I got more
You
wrinkles
looking
than you.
good, girl. You looking good.
It's all the makeup I put on for this.
No, well,
All the bright
skin
lights.
makeup then.
We're going to need that information. too.
Routine of skin and makeup.
Yes.
But anyway,
Oh my
sorry.
goodness.
Keep going. I'm sorry.
Anyways, yeah, no,
Yes.
it's all good. It's all good. So ministry has changed. Even how we do church has changed. So the expectations that I maybe grew up with kind of don't really exist in the world where I live now as a parent. So, the 2 services on Sunday, Wednesday night Bible study and prayer meeting and a whole bunch of different things like that. Our church operates differently now. So I don't feel like we have that same kind of, like, I don't feel like my kids necessarily have that same sort of pressure or expectation growing up. Right.
That's good.
So yeah, I think times have changed. So therefore your
have.
perspective changes too. Right.
For sure.
I love to hear that, like, I mean, we know the stereotype of a pastor's kid, and we have heard more stories of the opposite of what she's sharing,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it's
Sure.
good to hear that either way, however it goes for our children and all the other, pastor wives that are listening, like, it can happen like this.
Yeah.
That, man,
For
I am
sure.
proud of my dad. I wouldn't even mind marrying a pastor and being a part of this. Like, that it is possible. It might not happen just like it did for Amy, but it's possible. And
Yeah.
they can be, it's just, it's a good, I don't know. It's good to hear that.
It's
Yeah.
encouraging.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And be encouraged. I mean, I'm a pastor's mom too, which is, a whole other
Yeah.
thing. So,
Oof.
but yeah, so I'm super grateful that my kids have kind of remained on track for the most part. I mean, teenagers are always hard, but,
Right.
God has held them and they have held on to God. And
Yeah,
I'm
that's good.
really thankful for that.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I'm hearing a lot of like that relationship piece, because even the fact that y'all, I know you were talking about staying long, you didn't that's not something that was in your mind. It was just, we will stay as long as God wants us to stay. And I think that's what's different, because we do hear of a lot of pastors who go somewhere as a stepping stone to something else,
Yeah.
to something
Yes.
else. But you're just like, whatever, Lord, open hands, and
Which is
probably learn that from your parents. Because to me, it sounds like you had some good ones
Yes.
who made the ministry the way it was supposed to be. They lived it. And so that makes a difference. And I hope people listen and hear that your relationship with God matters most, not traditions necessarily, or church has to be this certain way, those expectations, but that relationship matters. And that's that's it.
Yeah,
That is
right.
what matters.
Right.
And so I don't know. I just thought that was really good.
Yeah, that's super
Yeah,
cool.
thanks. And when we moved here, so that was 12 years ago or whatever, my older 2 kids were in high school. So that was not an easy move. Like, this was then the only move that they've ever done. Right. So that was not an easy move for them. And I remember speaking with our oldest son at the time, who was in grade 10. So he was in 10th grade, and we moved mid-year. So January, they were starting at their new school. And I remember he was just so upset. Like, this was whole life. He was 15. His whole life was in a different city. Everything he knew, right? With the one church he knew, the schools he knew, the kids he had grown up with, the hockey team he played on, baseball, all of the things, right? It was all in one little area. But I remember saying to him, honey, this isn't just about God calling dad to a new place. This is about God calling our family to a new place. He wouldn't call dad somewhere that he knew that was going to be horrible for you and your brothers.
Yeah.
Or for me, or this is about us as a family. And it's hard to see the bigger picture because we don't see that.
Yeah.
But like, God has to have a bigger picture in all of this. And so we have to put it in that perspective. He's like, I don't see a better picture, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But I love the
Whatever.
intentionality.
That was
The
good,
intentionality
though.
behind that conversation. That's huge.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good.
So,
Amy, let's dive a little bit deeper into your story, okay?
mm-hmm.
So, your husband actually had a diagnosis that affected the family and the ministry.
Yes.
So, can you share the story of how the diagnosis came about and
Mhm.
how God's carried you and your family through that?
Yeah, absolutely. That was such a time. Wow. So my husband was diagnosed, had gone through a bunch of health, just being unwell for a while and not being able to figure out what the problem was. And then he was eventually diagnosed with Cushing's disease, which is the growth of a tumor on your pituitary gland. So your pituitary gland is quite instrumental in your body. And so it really it shut down his pituitary gland and therefore shuts down a lot of the other things in your body. So long story short, he ended up having to have surgery on his pituitary, so by a neurosurgeon. But leading up to that, he was preparing to die because we were told that he was on the end stages of kind of life with this. So because your body can really only function, up to 8 years kind of thing. And he was probably 6 years by the time it was diagnosed. So, and his body was starting to shut down, like some of his internal organs were struggling. So we knew that could go one way or the other really at this point. So he was preparing to die well. So that's a little bit of his own story, the things that he did there. Forgiveness sought from people, restoring relationships, intentionality, and spending time with people that he loved, including our kids, his siblings, his mom, different people, some friends that he really reached out to as well. But then he went in and had the surgery. And so it was supposed to be like a 3-day in the hospital kind of idea. So he went in, and then the next day he wasn't getting any better. Like he wasn't recovering basically from the surgery. So later that day, on the second day, they took him in for another test and found out that he had a massive pulmonary embolism in his heart. So there was a massive blood clot that was kind of straddling both arteries of his heart. So he was having issues breathing. He, had a seizure in the room. They called the crash cart, the whole thing while I was in there. So there was lots going on, but I even know, like, I look back at that moment in the room and I just feel the presence of the Holy Spirit. Like, I just know that he was there. Like I remember looking at the bed thinking this could be like a moment in time that changes everything. Right. But he stabilized, he came back. It was fine. Then I had gone home, and I had just actually at the time, I had just gone back to school to become a teacher a couple of years prior to this. So I had just started a brand new job. And because I was, super responsible, and I had to go to work the next day, even though he was in the hospital. So, but my mom had gone to spend some time with him in the hospital, and she arrived, and when she arrived, he was in the step down unit, and the doctor, so the neurosurgeon who had performed the surgery, was basically on top of him trying to get things into his body in order to save him at the time. And so my mom is a nurse, so she was fully aware of what was happening.
Wow.
So she called me at work, and it happened to be, recess in the middle of our day. And so she just said to me, "You need to come to the hospital now." And I said, "What's happening?" And she said, "I don't know, but Dr. Kish came out and told me that he told me to call you and that you need to come." And then she started to cry. So I'm like, oh my gosh, if my mom's crying about this is big, right? So I just left and drove to the hospital, and I was just praying, God, just save him till I get there. Save him till I get there. And my mom had said they were moving him to the ICU. So I basically ran into the hospital, not having much experience with ICU units, not knowing the doors were actually permanently closed. I was like running in there. Like ran right into the door, and then someone came, "Are you Mrs. Gordon?" I'm like, "Yeah." Yeah, I'm the one running through your door. Anyways, then they brought me in. I had to sit in the little room, meet with the doctors, and they said, "This is the situation. He has this massive pulmonary embolism that we cannot treat like we normally would because he's just had brain surgery. So if we were to put the blood thinners in his body, his brain could bleed out." He said, "So if we leave it, there's a good chance that he will die. If we operate, there's also a good chance that he will die." So,
Wow.
but I had to sign the paper saying we were to do the operation because at least that was trying something.
Right.
So I did. I signed those papers, and then I went into the hospital room to see him, and he just had as you can imagine, tubes everywhere. He was not super conscious, kind of in and out a little bit, but he had lost a lot of memory at the time too. He knew who I was, but he couldn't remember if we had kids, couldn't remember where he grew up, couldn't remember. Like if I talked about something, you could see that it would kind of go, oh yeah, those are our kids. And, but
oh goodness.
So there was a lot that wasn't there. So he was in for the next night, and then they decided the next day that they would try to blast the clot in his heart directly with the blood thinning medication. So they did like an angioplasty kind of up and in, and then directly put put it right in the clot itself and blasted a little bit. So while that was happening, his vitals went all a little bit wild. So they stopped the process and then just waited it out. And we just waited it out. Within the next probably 12 hours, he was slowly getting better. So they figured that the amount of medication they got into the clot was enough to start busting it apart. And so then it started to kind of move on its own. So, so he was in the hospital for another couple of weeks after that before he was able to come home. But as you can imagine, kind of in all that story, there's times when God met us in huge and miraculous ways. There was times that Andrew had moments with Jesus, in his consciousness while he was in the hospital. But at that time too, we had people, like people would come, and we had people cleaning our house. We had people doing our laundry. We had people providing us with food. We had like the whole church community just surrounded us and just loved on us in a way that actually allowed us to get healthy. So it was a turning point in the story, regardless of what happened. It was, a huge marker in our story. But parenting through that is a whole other thing. Oh gosh. Especially when you're basically kind of single parenting. The one night that he was in the hospital before he went into ICU, I brought all the kids in, so they all had a time to meet with him. And that was like, I think it was our youngest. He couldn't even touch him because he had things everywhere, and that wasn't what he wanted. But the other guys do remember seeing him there and having that. And so I know that it's impacted them. It's impacted how we parent. It's impacted our ministry, how we understand other people, walking with people through things like this. We often refer to it, it's kind of like the story of the mat, from the Bible, when the lame man had 4 friends that carried him to Jesus. Sometimes we just needed people to carry us to Jesus too. Like we couldn't do it. Like we weren't able to do it on our own. So it allowed other people, like we had to allow other people to carry us to Jesus.
It's beautiful.
But there's a whole humility piece in that too, that honestly was really hard at first for me. Like the acknowledgement that I can't do it, that I don't know what I'm doing, that, that just like relying on people for all those basic things. Oh, yeah. Right. But also through that, realizing that by not allowing other people to do what God has asked them to do, you're really withholding the blessing that they are going to receive 100%. From God, right? So that was a good learning piece for me coming out of the whole thing. But and so then it was shortly after that we ended up, when Andrew got healthy again, and we realized that, God had saved us for something and had more for us, right? We need to figure out what that was.
Hey friend, we will get right back to our episode, but we want to take a moment and thank our patrons. You guys keep our podcast going.
If you are not a patron and you would like to consider donating to our podcast ministry, we would be so grateful, and we might even do a happy dance.
When you become a patron, you get perks like being the first to hear about special info and retreats. You get bonus episodes, monthly devotionals, lock screens, and more.
Plus, we have added a new $1 tier for those who believe in us and what we're doing, just because you love us.
So head on over to our show notes and click on the Patreon link to learn more. Now let's get back to our episode.
Amy, that's a lot. I can't even fathom, and the fact that he wasn't even supposed to be alive, and yet here you are. How many years ago was that?
That was probably 12 years ago. He just had he goes for an annual checkup with his neurosurgeon just to make sure there's no regrowth of the tumor. So, and that was like a couple weeks ago. So yeah.
Wow.
That's incredible.
And
Like,
kudos
what
to
God
the
did.
church. Like kudos
Yes.
to like a healthy, not a
Yes.
perfect, but a healthy church coming
Yep.
beside you. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
no,
it is
absolutely.
really hard. It is the humility piece, or just feeling like sometimes I just feel like I'm a burden. And I'm like, no, it's
Yes.
my job to help you. And so I feel like I'm being a burden
Yep.
if other people have to
Yeah.
come and help.
Yeah.
But it is
Yeah.
like setting aside your pride and just saying, yes, I'm going to accept this and receive that love and allow other people to be blessed by blessing you, you know?
Right. Right.
Because
Yeah.
I mean, it is, I feel blessed when I get to help other people. And I
Right.
know that's good for others. Okay. So now I know you've mentioned this other diagnosis, but that's not where the health problems completely stopped. There is something else. So do you want to continue to tell that part of your story too?
Yeah. We can. So about 5 years ago, he started to have similar symptoms to what we thought was probably the Cushing's coming back again. So just, we kind of pursued every medical avenue that we could think about to go kind of back at that. So, but he had his annual MRI and there was no regrowth of the tumor. So then, well, okay, so that's not it. So now what is it? And so it took a couple of years probably to actually figure out what the diagnosis was. So yeah, about probably 4 years ago now, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. So that's kind of our current journey. But I often feel like, God entrusted us and brought us through the crisis. And now we're dealing with the chronic. And so it's a totally different kind of walk out of all of this. But there's similarities too, probably, right? Just in the trusting of other people and of God for what that means. Parkinson's is a degenerative disease.
Yeah,
So
it is.
that's the reality that he and we are faced with every day. But yeah, that's part of our current journey and where we're kind of currently trying to figure out and hear from God on a constant basis, actually. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. Our former pastor, mine and my husband, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's. How old was he? Like maybe 40?
Yeah.
He was young and he was diagnosed. And I just remember that journey. And he had 2 different surgeries because he was so young. There was something they could do in his brain, like he essentially had brain surgery.
Yes.
And so just hearing your story, I just remember how like difficult that was on him and the family and the church, just all of that. So when you have all those layers, it is a lot. So how has all these seasons, you've had the season, like you said, of crisis. Now you're in the season of like the chronic. How has this reshaped your understanding of serving in ministry? What does that look like practically, spiritually? How has that affected y'all?
Yeah, it certainly has. I mean, I don't think you can go through something like this and not have it affect you or impact you. But I think it's given us a more intentionality to it all because we don't know at what point it's going to change. Like at what point does ministry as we know it change? At what point will it impact his speech so he's not going to be able to preach? At what point will it, and so, but also looking to then what is it? Like, what does God have for us if it's not this? Because this is all we've ever known. So, and in one hand, that's kind of exciting, right? Like that's, the new possibilities and all that kind of thing. But also just trying to figure out what that actually looks like. But I do think that there's a different intentionality with an unknown ending.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's not like we're just preparing to retire in 10 years and this is what we're going to do because we're not sure we're going to make it for 10 years.
Right.
And, so I think we're just very intentional about what we do and about who we have around us and who we have supporting us and what we're listening to and who we're listening to.
Yeah.
So I think all of those things are always important. But when you're trying to figure out kind of what your life with a ministry life, what that looks like when it's going to be severely impacted at some point. But then again, we just have to trust God and maybe it won't.
Right.
Because there's actually no for Parkinson.
Yeah.
It can go like he could stabilize like this for the next 10 years, just where he's at. He could get suddenly very worse. He could like there's just no, it's different for everybody. Right. So we don't know, but that actually does add to the intentionality of what we do day to day.
Yeah.
what we choose to do. So, we're, as part of what we do now is we were not right now, but we're offering trips to the Holy Land, right? So he would do that, and just kind of like, we're really trying to enjoy all aspects of life with a God-shaped lens, right?
Yeah.
Like, just like what can we do for Jesus, that will also help us enjoy the season and the stage that we're in. So
Man,
So good.
I don't even like having words. She's such a, I know internally, I know it's still a lot to carry, and you and Jesus probably have moments of like frustration and anger and sadness, but you carry yourself so strong. And I know that's the Holy Spirit just giving you
absolutely
the strength, because like I can just go like, you try to put yourself in your shoes, and I don't want to, honestly, but also, man, you just are such strength, and your words, your testimony for this podcast, but also the testimony that you get to share where you're at in your community is huge. And just make sure you're telling it, because it's strong. And what the Holy Spirit's doing just through you. That's not even your husband, just through you is huge.
I keep hearing the word just unshakable faith.
Like you just are very
you can't be
strong.
Thank you. You guys are so encouraging.
Yeah, no, for real. Like it's
Thank you.
it's strong within you for sure.
Thanks.
Well, okay. Before I ask another question, do you mind me asking, like, where is he in the Parkinson's disease right now? So he is preaching every Sunday. Like, what is being affected right this moment, just so people can kind of get where you're at?
Yes. Yeah. And to be honest, when I first reached out and kind of wrote you guys the story or whatever, I didn't ask him. And then I thought afterwards, oh shoot, I should have asked him. It's a story. So I did, but he was like, nope, it's all good. If God can use it, then it's what it's for. Right. So, and same thing. I think you can reach people, and if it's helpful, then that's what we want. That's what we want this to be used for, right? When you go through these things. So currently he is, so he's still working full time. So he's the lead pastor at our church, but he has reduced his preaching to about 50 to 60% of the time. So because it is actually affecting his voice right now, that's hard, so we have 2 services on the Sunday mornings. And so by the time he's done the second, he's tired. It's a lot, on his voice. So it does mostly impact just one side of his body right now. So his left side, but he's also left-handed. So that has impacted his typing. So he's gotten to use voice to text very well. But still, that's just different in your thought process when you're prepping, when you're doing all the things, right? When you're not able to type as fast as you want to, then it's, it can be hard, right? So that part has been affected, and his speech. But he gets out. He still plays hockey, because that's what we do up here in Canada, right? But they've always said that the one thing that's going to impact the progression of the disease is your ability to stay moving. So we move as much as we can. Keep moving. He does lots of exercises. He sees physio and chiropractor and OT, and does all of those things. All the things that he needs to do. Yeah. Good. So and we have just joined a team down in Toronto that is kind of on the cutting edge things of research for Parkinson's. So, which we were really thankful to get into. It took us 2 years to get into that.
Wow.
But he's still at a stage where it's manageable with medication. So that's kind of where we're at, but just kind of watching as things go forward. And
thank you for sharing that.
No problem.
So through what the diagnosis is not just for him, but it's for you and the family and your church. So what has been some of the hardest adjustments that you've had to make? I think you've shared a little bit, like his preaching time has gone down a little bit, but what are some of the other adjustments? Are there more no's than yeses? Is there more calendar days of like, this is just family time or husband and wife time? You've shared some testimony of how you've seen God show up, but like within the church, how have you seen God show up even in the process of just him getting the diagnosis and now preaching and now back in ministry? How has the church come alongside of you and served you and helped you?
Yeah, in many, many practical ways for sure. Like we've had lots of people, especially when you first give the diagnosis, right? When it first becomes public, there's lots of people that are around and lots of people who are supporting, questioning, asking what they can do. So we've had people come and look after our lawn, like we have lots of trees. So, there's lots of lawn care. Um, there's people have dropped off food. People have painted our house. People have, like there's been a whole lot of practical ways that, and because it's also not, and this is maybe the beauty of it, it's not that Andrew actually can't do those things right now, but people are still choosing to jump in and help, right? And to offer to serve wherever they can. So that looks different depending on who the person is, for sure. But they've also, from the church leadership perspective, they have been so supportive of Andrew, so supportive of, you do what you need to do. Like you manage your week, you manage your day, like, because some days are hard, some days are totally fine, some weeks are harder. It has become evident to us that stress does impact it. Yeah. So we've had to, as you said, maybe there's more no's than yeses now. So just to manage that, a little bit easier, which has been really hard because, Andrew has always really been an all-in kind of pastor. And so from that perspective, he still really wants to be. So that's a learning curve, right? To be able to say no and to be able to still know that you are valued and in your job when you don't feel like you're necessarily able to do it all.
Yeah.
But I think that comes from a lot of other people speaking into our lives. We're part of a small group, like a home group at our church, and they have all been fantastic and offering lots of things in lots of different ways, which has been so good. Our friends, our kids' friends, families have been so good. We've been offered places to stay on vacation, so to be able to go away,
nice.
which is, you don't ever want to turn those things down, right?
Sure don't.
So blessed that way. So blessed that way. So, there's been lots of things. But I think one of the harder things for me is that I have had to pull back in ministry because I have had to step up into my career, right, into my job. Because if Andrew's not able to work, then I need to. So, and I've never actually worked at the church. Like that's never been, I have never been a paid employee at the church, and that's fine. But, and I love my job. And so I'm really thankful that, that God has given me a job that I enjoy and that I love. So, because if I have to work full time outside of the home and away from, quote unquote church ministry, I want to be able to love it. And I want to be able to know that I'm having an impact there too. But that has been hard for me because my heart is church ministry. It really is. So, but I know that this is a season and that this actually has been God's provision for our family.
For sure.
So I'm very thankful for that. But that has been hard for me. And that probably came more like after we moved here. And then, a couple years later, things got difficult with Andrew's health. And so I started pulling back. And I think it was an adjustment for a lot of people at church too, that I was stepping back, like that I was, and then we'd have new people come and they wouldn't even know who I was, which is fine. I don't care about that, but that's just that whole thing of, kind of feeling a little bit more invisible because my priority had to be elsewhere right now.
Yeah.
So, and our kids were, ending high school, starting university, finding their places in life. Like that had to become my first priority and where my
life should be. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So Amy, there are many pastors' wives who are listening to this, who might be walking through their own, seasons of uncertainty or loss or whatever. What encouragement or wisdom would you give those who are maybe weary or facing big life changes like you have?
Yeah. I know in our situation, God brought people around us that I was really able to lean on. And so I hope that God has done the same for them, that there are people around them that they can lean on. It might not be somebody who lives next door. It might not be somebody even at their church, but who are those people that can help carry your mat? Who are those people that can take you to Jesus and let them, just let them take you? And also look back. How has God been faithful in the past? Because he will continue to be faithful as you go forward. He will. He's promised that. So that takes some intentionality and some choosing, I realize. But those would be two things that I would really encourage any of your listeners to, where are the people around you? If you don't have them, pray for them. Pray that God would bring them into your life, that they would cross your path, and that he would kind of be tapping you on the shoulder, like, this is the one, this is the one you can trust. And, because it can lead to such a beautiful relationship and friendship for one thing. But it also does make the burden lighter and lets you know that you're not alone in it at all. So
that's a good word. That's a good word. I had to pray for some friends. It happened.
Yeah.
It just took many years.
And sometimes it does, right? And that's the reality. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think as I'm hearing you just say these things, it goes back to that strength, that, I don't know, that quiet strength, even behind your voice and the way you're sharing with us and the hope that comes from it. I think that's not always normal for people who have experienced chronic health issues or have a loved one who's experienced that. And so I just want to ask you, like, through all these years and everything you've been through, what has helped you stay grounded, stay abiding? What would you say? Is there a particular scripture? Is there just something that, I don't know, maybe from a young age, you knew that you had to hold on tight to the Lord or whatever. Just, could you share that?
Yeah, probably a little bit of all of that. Actually, probably from a young age, I knew that was something that I had been entrusted with and that I could rely on. I've never been one to doubt God, so that has been a gift that he's given me. And so I have never had a hard time trusting him. I do remember throughout a lot of this time, especially when Andrew was sick and in the hospital, I remember it probably every single day. I would, as soon as no one else was in the house, I would cry and I would yell out to God and I would bang on the floor and I would I would just let it all out.
Yeah.
But that actually proved to me that God is who he says he is. He is the person, he is what is going to hold me. And, I know that I had a lot of people around, and I would still suggest that that's a great thing to do. Yeah. But ultimately, holding on to Jesus is what's going to make it through. And that's going to look different for everybody. But God is bigger than what you are feeling. God is bigger than the situation that's going on. And so I just remember, I had actually, until that point in my life, I probably had never talked to God like I talked to him then.
Yeah.
In that gut-wrenching honesty, that just poured out of me because I didn't know what else to do with it. And, I always kind of, I grew up being a good girl, right? So those things I just never really, I just kind of always went along and always trusted, and it was always good. And, things were good for me. And so when I was suddenly challenged with that, I had to ask myself, is it? Is God still good? And he proved to me that he was.
Yeah.
So I think part of that strength is just that knowing, that deep knowing that God is who he says he is.
Yeah.
And will be who he says he will be.
I love it because it's the picture that scripture says that the outside world and even some of the church is going to look at Amy and go, why is Amy like this? Why is she still functioning? Why is she still working full time? How does she still have a smile on her face when this is happening? Yeah. Why is her husband still happy? Why? And the testimony is Jesus. The reason they're like this is because there's a peace that passes all understanding that he is waiting to give you if you lay everything at his feet.
Right.
And you've done that. And I think that's the testimony that people are going to go, there's no way they should be the way they are. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? And that like just a beautiful picture of full abandon and full trust and the one who knows more than you. You know, so it's beautiful. Your testimony is really beautiful.
And that's actually what we hope and pray comes out of it, right?
Good.
You know, it really
It is.
It will.
So.
Yeah. 100%.
It already is.
Yes, 100%. Keep on sharing it.
Yeah.
Both
Thank
of you.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you for
I
that.
really believe that both of you need to be sharing your testimony all the time. Like, because
thank you.
Yeah, it will change lives for sure.
Right.
Through Jesus.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
Okay. So Amy, we have 3 questions that you do know that we ask, and now it is your turn. Are you ready?
Rapid
hope
fire.
so.
Okay, rapid fire. Here we go. If you could go back and give your pre-pastor's wife self one piece of advice, what would it be?
I think it would be don't sweat the small things and to remember to always be humble and kind.
Amen.
Yeah.
Which might sound a little bit weird, but I think that pride piece was something that my younger pastor's wife self really dealt with. And I actually had to do a lot of work around not being proudful of this position that I held and what it might expect and what people expected of me and, you know, what it meant. Because really, I am just me. And it's in God's strength that I can be anything else. And I love being a pastor's wife. I actually really do. But that is not, I think my viewpoint of it has all changed. And I think I'm in a healthier spot than I would have been 30 years ago.
I hope we all are. Or there's some
right?
issues.
I know. I hope so too.
For sure.
So
That's
true.
good. That's good. Okay. Question number 2. What do you do for fun, either by yourself or with your spouse, to get your mind off of all things ministry?
Hey, I like to read, so that's kind of a by myself thing. But I do like that. And but my husband, because especially right now where he's at, we like to go for hikes. We like to, you know, enjoy outside. We go camping in the summertime and when we have vacation time or whatever. So yeah, we like to get out and do things. So we're also a pretty sporty family. So we go to sporting events and, you know, just do different things like that. But yeah, we'd like to get outside probably.
I like it.
Awesome. Okay. What are you reading right now?
Oh, well,
Or what have you just read?
What have I just read? I have just been reading a few of Kristen Hanna's novels. I don't know if you've read any of hers, but so she's somebody that I've picked up and that I have really enjoyed. So
I have not, but what does she write about? Is this like
it's like historical fiction.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. No, it's like for fun reading. It's not like.
Oh yeah. No, I read fiction too.
Yeah.
But
love
I don't
love it.
I don't normally lean towards historical fiction, although I have friends who do.
Yeah, we do.
Yes. Well, I know lots of people do. It is quite the genre out there.
Yeah.
So, but what I love about hers is that sometimes it is like historical, like World Wars and whatever. And then other times it's like more recent, but it's still kind of like in the 80s. She has one called The Great Alone, which is all about the Alaskan frontier. And after the Vietnam War, it's a good one.
Gotcha. Okay. You hear that, people?
Just a little plug out there.
Plug out there.
Little plug. Like it. Okay. Last and final question.
Yes.
It's a biggie.
I know.
If you could tell the congregation, and this is not just her congregation, people, this is the Big C Church. Okay. If you could tell the church congregation one thing and have them really listen and respond, what would you say?
I would say that you are vital to what God has to do in the world, that you are vital to being his hands and feet to people who need to hear the story, the gospel. But also, I would really want you to know that we, your ministry leaders, your ministry families, love you. We really do love you.
Yeah.
You are the reason we get up in the morning for the most part, right? Like, and so I went to the She Speaks conference years ago, and Whitney Capps was speaking at the time. And so something she said has stuck with me. Now, I can't remember if it was a quote that she quoted or whether it was her own words, but I credit to her because she's the one I heard it from. And she said something about, if you want to change the kingdom, go home and love your church. And like, that has just become more my motto ever since. Like I know that you're not perfect, church. I know that you're not. Like, we all know that you're not, but neither are we.
Right.
And but we just want to love on you, and we want to see you become all that God has for you.
Yeah.
It really
So
is.
Good, Amy.
So good.
Oof. Amy, this has been an episode.
This has been so much
It's
more
been
than
so
I think
fun.
we even knew what would happen.
yeah.
Like,
it was
So good.
beautiful. It was beautiful. I mean, you've taught me today. I
Yeah.
mean, for sure.
Yeah.
So thank you just for sharing your testimony.
you.
And I know your testimony is ongoing, of course. And
Yeah.
we will
Yes.
definitely be praying
Always
for
are.
both of you
Thank
and your
you.
family, and excited about your other engagement for your next
Yeah.
son. It's exciting.
Yes.
What's going on?
But thank you so much for being on the podcast and for sharing. Guys, we love you. Until next time.
bye.
Okay, friends, if you have enjoyed this episode as much as we have, please help us spread the word on Facebook and Instagram.
If you didn't know yet, Instagram is where all the fun is at. From dance reels on Wednesdays to spiritual encouragement and laugh out loud posts in between, there is something for everyone.
And last but certainly not least, if you could take a moment right now to stop what you're doing and give us a rating and review, even subscribe to our podcast, this seriously helps other people find us who wouldn't be able to otherwise. Thank you so much for your love and support. We hope you'll tune in next week.